Okay, so we were here that we have to call the insert method to insert the values into our database. Okay, for that purpose, I will be calling the insert, and inside this, you have to call the query to insert values into your databases. Okay, so as you know that we can perform this by query, but as we have called the insert method, so there is no need to call that query. All we have to do is to provide the name of table that in which we want to insert values. Okay, so the name of table was my table. We can store this into some constant as well. Okay, so it is recommended practice to keep things inside constants so that we if we accidentally change the name, so it doesn't happen. Okay, so I will be providing the name of my table, that is my table. Okay, let me show this with the course. The second parameter, I'm not going to provide any selection parameters, so that would be null. Okay, and the third values would be the object of values that we want to put inside our table, and that, as you know, that we have stored those values inside our content values table. Okay, so this is the step that we have. In this step, we are going to insert values inside our database. But how we are going to check that either our values has been inserted into our table or not? Okay, for that purpose, I'm going to call a long, create a long variable here that is check. Okay, so if the query, if this method will successfully execute, it will return some value other than -1. Of if there is some error while inserting values inside our my table, then it is going to give us -1. Okay, so we can check that value over here. If let me take this to next line. If check value is not equal to -1, it means that values has successfully been inserted. Okay, so I will be toasting over here values. Okay. After that, what we are going to do is to set the name text dot set text, and here what I'm going to set is null. Okay, and for the email text dot set text, and here what I'm going to set is null. That we don't need to set any kind of value on it. Okay, and the focus that we need to get inside our okay else part, if we do get some error while inserting the values, then we will say toast insert values. Okay, so we are done with our insert values object. I'm going to quickly wrap this up, that how we have inserted values inside our table of the database, SQLite database. Okay, the first thing that you need to do is to create, in order to insert values into the some table inside your database, the first thing that you need to do is to create the object of SQLite database, and you should have to initialize this SQLite databases with the your own customized class that you have created, and with this object you have to call the getWriteableDatabases because you're going to write something into your database. Okay, after initializing the SQLite object, the next thing that you need to do is to check that either this object has successfully been initialized or not. For that purpose, we will check if there is null inside our SQLite database. That it means that it has not been successfully initialized. Okay, so if it is not equal to null, then we're going to proceed. Otherwise, we're going to say that fails to initialize the SQLite object. Okay, there might be number of reasons, but for the time being, I will be saying that we can check those reasons as well. But for the time being, I will be saying that fails to initialize the SQLite database object. Okay. After that, the next thing that you need to do is to check either our text edit texts are empty or not. We are going to validate, and for that purpose, we will be using these stores that I have written. I have wrote over here. And the next thing that you need to do is to call the object of content value. This is kind of a bundle in which we are going to put values that we want to insert inside our databases table. Okay, for that purpose, I have created the object of content values, and later I have put the values inside the object of content values. And these names should be the same as we have used inside our query while creating the table, as you can see from here, email and bar. Okay, after inserting these values, the next thing that we need to do is to call the SQLite object, and in this I'm going to call the method of SQLite database class, which is insert, and inside the insert first I have to pass the my table, and I'm going to make the null column head equal to null right now for the time being, and later we have to, in the form of third parameter, I'm going to put the values that we want to save inside the table. Okay, after that we want to check either our values have been inserted or not, have been saved into our databases or not. For that purpose, this line of code will return us if we successfully save values inside my table, then we're going to get something other than -1. Okay, so we're going to check this, that if the values is not equal to, if the value of check is not equal to -1, that it means that the values have been successfully inserted, and we will be clearing the values from our edit text as well, and we are going to request the focus into our name agent. And after that, if we get something other than if we get -1, it means that we are failed to save values inside our my table. Okay, and then we're going to place the toast. Okay, so if you have any query till this point, then please feel free to ask. Otherwise, please say in the chat box that there is no problem. Okay, so if there is no problem, then I'm going over here inside our activity. Okay, and on the insert values, I'm going to call insert values into database. Now let me rerun this application. Okay, so our application has been installed. Let me share the screen. Can you guys see the screen of emulator?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is to insert values, and let us say please enter the name. So I was just saying that suppose that name is Farouk, and the next thing that I'm going to do is to enter the email.com, something like this. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to click on add values to our table. Okay, so values inserted and our field has been emptied as well. So the next thing I'm going to add is value is my at yahoo.com. Okay, yahoo.com, and value is inserted. If we accidentally click on it, you can see there is nothing to us. It means that database have already been created. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to add is YouTube and y at yahoo.com. Okay, and we're going to add values. Let's talk about Rashid Ali Bhatt. Okay, so I will be saying Rashid SQL at yahoo.com, and that is inserted. So that's it, guys. We have inserted values into our databases is a table as well. Okay, so if you don't have any query till this point, the next thing that we need to do is to get values back from our databases. Okay, that we have just inserted values inside our database. In the next step, what we're going to do is to get values back from our databases. Okay, for that purpose, I'm going inside our databases. Okay, but before going into databases, we have to make changes to our XML file as well. So to get values back, I will be creating a new button over here that will be matter wrap content. And the next thing that you need to do over here is to provide ID to our button, and this would be get values. And this would be below of our insert values TTN ID. What was the ID of this add values actually? Add values, add values to table. Okay, and let me self close it. The next thing, and the last thing is to provide the text to this, and this would be get values from table. Okay, now I'm going to add this to our string file actually, and to show those values into our application, we're going to use the text view that will actually show the value. Okay, for that purpose, I'm going to use the text view, parent parent, and second would be wrap content. And let me self-close it. Third thing is to provide ID to it, and this would be our values text view, and this will be below of our get values began. Okay, we don't need anything else to set right now with the text view. Okay, so let me change my position as well. So the next thing that you need to do is to call this text view inside your main activity. So let me collapse this table, this method for the time being. So here, what I'm going to do private text view. I will be saying that this is values text view. Let me check who is messaging me on the. So this is Asim Zahid that asked me to ask add him into class. So let me first invite Asim. Okay, so I will invited him. So the next thing is to initialize, and next thing is to actually connect this with the XML variable. For that purpose, I will be going inside our initialize variable, and for that purpose, I will be calling the values text view equal to find you by ID or that ID values text view. Okay, great. We have connected our Java text view with XML text view. Okay. So the last thing is to create a method that will actually get values from our databases and store and show inside our text view. For that purpose, let me create that method private void get values from table. To make it clickable, I will be calling the view, passing the view object as well. Let me surround this with the try catch. And this time we're going to get the section inside the table, so we'll be passing that over here, so that we do need we should be informed that in wait method we are actually getting the exception in case. So the first thing that you need to do is to, as I already told you, that you're going to perform queries into your databases. Okay, to perform queries into databases, you need to create the object of your SQLite database class. Okay, but this time, let me first create the object of SQLite databases. SQLite databases, I will be calling it again SQLite data. You can create it one time and you can initialize the value again and again. But for the sake of simplicity and understanding, I am creating this again and again. Okay, you can even create it in a separate class and you can call and so on. Okay, so this time, as you know, we are not writing something into our databases. We are actually retrieving something out of our databases. For that purpose, I will be calling first class, calling the custom object of our class, SQLite class. And now instead of calling the writable databases, what I'm going to do is to call the readable databases. Okay. So after initializing it, first you need to do is to check either it has been initialized or not, as we did in the previous method. It's not equal to null. Check the chat box. Okay, Ali, no issue. And in the else part, I'm going to give you guys a task as well after performing few of these operations. So Ali, be aware of that task that you, in order to get marks for this lab, you have to do that task. Okay, so here we will be toasting that right object is not class, whatever. Okay, so as you have if you have successfully initialized the object of your SQLite, then you are going to call the query onto your SQLite object. For that purpose, I will be calling getSQL dot X, or you can even call the execSQL, but I'm going to, as I'm going to get the values back into our application. For that purpose, I will be calling the rawQuery. And inside this rawQuery, first I have to pass that query, select what we're going to get. We're going to get everything from our table in which we have letter values, and the name of table was my table. So this is the reason I was talking about that you have to pass the or save your table name into some variable. So instead of copying and pasting the table name again and again, all you can do is just call that variable. Okay, so my table, and the second parameter that we need to pass is null. I'm not going to pass any selection argument on it. For that purpose, we will be having some other method. Okay, so this line of code is going to return us the values in the form of a class object which is cursor. So if you want to get these values, if it is going to return some values in the form of int, so we used to create the variable of type int, but here we are going to get the values in the form of cursor. Okay, so we are going to create the object of cursor. Okay, first I will be creating the object of that cursor. Okay, cursor. Okay, and here I will be storing these values inside it. We can perform this code into one single line of code, but as you know, this is the class. For that purpose, I'm throwing it into simple steps. Okay, after that, first thing, actually in the cursor, we're going to get values in the form of rows and columns. Okay, so first we're going to check that either our cursor is null or not. Okay, if it does contain some values, it means that we're going to check that. Okay, we can check that either our cursor contains some values or not. Okay, for that purpose, if I'm going to call object cursor dot get count equal nulls, that there is no columns and rows inside our cursor store. So that purpose I will be calling cost toast no trade. Okay, but if we do get some values out of our cursor inside, if we do get some values inside our cursor, then we're going to get those values. Okay, for that purpose, I'm going to first store all those values into some string, and later on I will be putting that we will be using that string to set the text for our text view. Okay, for to storing those values, I will be using the object of string buffer. You can even store these values inside simple string, but string buffer is recommended where you are going to append values from the databases or something like this, as we are doing inside our this method. So I will be creating the object string buffer equal to new buffer. Okay. Now here we are going to start a loop that is going to start from 0 position, and it will go up to n minus 1. Okay, how we are going to check that? We are not going to check that manually. We are simply starting the while loop, and in the while we are going to check while move cursor next. If it is true, then we are going to get values. Otherwise, we are going to say that it will automatically stop. Okay, so after moving the cursor, we're going to store values inside our object string buffer. For that purpose, I will be calling string buffer, and here what I'm going to call is the method append, that is actually append values in already existing string. Okay, and it will start with null. Okay, the first thing that we have stored is name, and we're going to get this name out of our cursor object cursor, and to get the string out of our cursor object, we can call its method, which is called getString. And here we have to pass the value for the index from where we want to get this value, and it will start from the 0. How it is going to work? It is like this. If we have the first value, which is name, will be stored on index 0, and the second value will be stored on 1, and the next will be stored, if there is some other field as well, then that will be stored onto 2, 3, and so on. Okay, and here we are going to get those values, get string, and the next value is 0. And for the sake of next line, I'm going to put the namespace I'm going to put the escape sequence character over here, and after that you have to pass terminate the line as well. Okay, and this was just for the name. The next thing that you append is to the email. Okay, and email was also of type string. So if you want to get the int, you can still get the int as well. So email as is of type integer, sorry, of type string. So I will be getting that string, and the email was stored on the index 1. Okay, as it is the second uh, column inside your table, so the next value would be 1. Okay, for the sake of next line, I'm going to call the escape sequence character as well. Okay, so here what we have done is this loop will run, it will start from 0 and will run until we reach the last record inside our cursor object, and we will store all those values in our string buffer one by one. Okay, and after this loop will end, we're going to set those values to our get values text view. That was actually values text view, set text, and here we are going to pass the object of string buffer, which will automatically pass the set the values to our our values text view. Now, in the last step, all we need to do is call this get values from table method on the on click of our get values method. Okay, so I will be calling the on click get values from table. Okay, so before running this application, I'm going to quickly wrap this up and going to tell you guys what actually happened over here. First thing that you need to do is to call the object of SQLite database, as you're going to need this object to perform different kind of operation like insert queries, rawQuery, or something like that. Okay, after that we're going to get the object. After getting the object of SQLite, you're going to initialize this object, and for that purpose we will be calling the getReadableDatabases. Okay, as we're going to get values back from our databases, so we have to call the method that is getReadableDatabase to check either our object have successfully been initialized or not. Then we are going to perform the same step as we did in our insert values into our table. Okay, next thing that you need to do is to create the object of cursor class. Cursor class is the same class in that will be used to save values that we will get by calling the method rawQuery on the object of SQLite database. Okay, so here what I have done, I have called the object SQLite databases object, and then I have called the method of SQLite database class rawQuery, in which I have passed the query select static from my table. Okay, and the selection arguments are null. Okay, and it will get all the data that has been stored inside our table, and will store that data in the form of rows and column inside our object cursor. Okay, and we can check that either if the count value is not if equal to 0, it means that no values has been retrieved. But if the value is not 0, it means that some values have been retrieved out of our database, out of our table. Okay, so to store those values into or to set those values with the values text view, first I need to do to store those values inside some variable, or you can say some object. Okay, you can store those values into some string values as well, but the recommended practice is to use the string buffer. Okay, for that purpose what I have done over here is to create, I have created the object of string buffer, and later on what I have done inside our uh, while loop, which actually what is doing is that it is starting, it is going to start from the very first index, which is the 0, and it will take you guys to the end of records that have been stored inside our cursor object. Okay, and from while it is while we are looping through this cursor object, we can get those values and store inside our string buffer. For that purpose I have called the method append. Okay, and inside this we can append values. First I'm going to append the values for name, and the value for the name is stored inside the column number 0, and if the type of data type of that is varchar, which is actually a type of string. Okay, so for that purpose I'm going to call the get string on the index, which is 0. Okay, we can use the string builder as well, we can even use the string here as well. Okay, you can use, there are different approaches that we can use over here. Okay, we just using for the time. Okay, so if you want to use the string builder as well, you can use that as well. There is no particular reason that I'm using their string buffer over here. Okay, this is for the just the credit card. And in the last that what I have done is call the get string from the column index, which is 1. Okay, after that we can just set those value to our set text. That by using the set text method, we can set those value to our values text view. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is to run this application, and let's check that it has successfully been executed or not. So let me share the screen. Okay. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is to just call the get values from table and store the values that we have stored inside our table. Okay, so till this point, out of the third operation, we have performed two for our operations. That is, one is to insert values, and the second one is to get values. Okay, we can still things that we need to do is to call the update and delete values as well. But before that, what I'm going to do is to create, or instead of showing these value inside our um, simple text view, I will be creating a recycler view, and I'm going to show these values inside our recycler view. Okay. Okay, so before going towards that, let's have a break of 2 minutes, and after that we will be starting again. But you should keep yourself online. There's it does not mean that you should get yourself on offline, and after that I will be calling again. I will be starting right from here. Just have 2 minutes break. Let me go back into our screen.
सर मेरा एक सवाल है
जी आसिम,
सर ये पूछना था मैंने कि हम रोम डेटाबेस क्यों यूज़ करते हैं SQLite की जगह यानी मतलब हम रोम को हम क्यों प्रेफरेंस देते हैं SQLite की बेस।
So now what we're going to do, we're going to get values instead of storing the values inside our simple text view. The thing that we're going to do is to store values inside our recycler view, or to show values inside our recycler view. For that purpose, first I'm going to put our recycler view into our XML file. Okay. Okay, so let me first check if our recycler bin dependency is inside our database and inside our application or not. As you can see that we haven't added the dependency for the recycler, so I will be clicking this icon and just click OK, and it will start the syncing process to add values inside our application. Okay, so going back into our code view, the next thing that I'm going to do is to put our recycler view under the text view. Okay, so I will be calling this recycler view, and this will be natural and wrap content. And the next thing that you need to do is to add the dependency for it. That will be, let me say RV. Okay, and this will be below of our values text view. Done. We have added our recycler view. Okay, so the next step is to add connect this XML recycler view with our Java recycler view. For that purpose, I will be going over here. Okay, private recycler view. Okay, and let me call this recycler view. Okay, and inside the initialized variables, what I'm going to do for recycler view will equal to find viewer ID and all that ID or recycle RV. That was RV. Okay, guys. So we have we have performed the very first step, in which all we need to do is to specify a adapter view inside our XML file. So in this case, the adapter view that we're going to use is a recycler. Okay, the next step after performing the after adding the adapter view to our XML file, the next thing that you need to do is to create a single item class, a single item layout that will actually override the dummy values inside our recycler view. Okay, for that purpose, I will be creating a new layout. So you have to go inside your recycler view layout, and here I'm going to create that dummy layout, that single row layout. Okay, let me call this single item instead of calling the single row again and again. I will be calling single item and creating the two active layout and then pressing the OK. Okay, now I will be going into our code view, and inside the code view, first thing that you need to do is to change this to wrap content. As you don't want to conceit your single item onto whole screen, you should wrap this into you should your height parameter, height attributes value to wrap content. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is to provide the padding from all side 5 dB. We need two text views, one for the name and the other one the email. Okay, so I will be calling that text view. Okay, and this would be wrap content, and the value would be wrap content as well. Okay, now let me provide the id to it, and id would be single item underscore, and this is actually for the name text view. Yes, let me provide some dummy value, and this is some name. Okay, and padding from all side to it, I will be 10 dp, and let me set the background to it and write color. Let me check some color in here. Are you blue dot? What about blue dot? Okay, and the text color, let me change this to Android color white. Good. And text style would be bold. Okay, and text size I'm going to change to 13 ST. Okay, guys, we're done with our name. Okay, the next thing is we do need a text view to represent our email as well. For that purpose, I will be creating a new text view over here that would be net parent wrap content. Okay, and id to this would be as single item underscore. I'm going to say this is for email text view, and this would be below of our main text view. Okay, and let me provide some dummy email inside it. Okay, I will be saying at yahoo.com. Okay, and padding from all sides, I will be providing 5 dp as well, as we did with the name. Okay, so the next thing, do we need anything else next? Let me set the text size to 15 st. Okay, and so do we need anything else to set with that? No, there is nothing. Okay, we're done with the text view for the email, and the next is to have some border at the bottom of these two. Now I'm going to call mat parent, and height will be 2 dp. Okay, and let me set up id, and this will be single item here, and this will be below of our email et. Let me self close it, and background for this would be Android color, and color would be, let me set for lab. Okay, so we are done over here as well. After creating a single item, you need to create a model class against this single item. Okay, that will actually be used to map the values, and then we will be getting those values out of this model class inside our adapter class. Okay, for that purpose, I will be using over here, and here inside our Java packages, I'm going to create a model class. Model class. That's a model class. And as you know, there are two things that we need to uh, map inside this model class. One is for the name, and second one is for the email. For that purpose, I will be creating private. And I'm going to say as the data types are of type string, name, and the second one is email. So as you know that the meeting is going to be ended in 1 minute, so I'm going to make a call again so that you guys can join that again. So I will be ending this meeting right now. Please quickly join the second meeting.